Welcome back to Making Art in My Garage. Yesterday, did the eyes. I think it turned out pretty good. Today, I want to work on the can a bit, the little spray coming out of here, and maybe do this area, and basically get it ready for background. I still don't know what I'm going to do with the background. I still have no idea. I keep thinking of different colors, or maybe a gradient or something. I was thinking yellow for a while, but then I don't know, yellow just doesn't seem right. Then I was thinking a black background, but would that be too dark? So I'm still a little bit lost as to what to do with the background. Honestly, if I can't think of anything, I might just do black. I don't know. For a moment I was thinking that I might do a white background and then put lines on it so it would look like a sheet of lined paper. I thought that might be fun or funny for some reason. I don't know. Background's hard. Then I thought maybe what if I actually tried to draw an actual background, like he's in a field or something, there's like a sky and a sun or something. And then I thought, no, that's just too much work. It's gonna be some kind of flat color or some kind of gradient or something like that. The liquid looks pretty liquidy. The can is not bad. I added some gray details, kind of mixed up like a battleship gray, which is basically just white with a little smidge of blue and black added. And then I just added white and went up to make it look like it had dips and recesses because of the crushing. The liquid, if you remember, I started with just a base coat of almost an olive green color, and then I just built it up with this yellow and then just adding a bit more white as I went. Ooh, I'm realizing that I missed one spot here a little bit. Can fix it real quick. All my brushes are dirty. I gotta go wash these brushes. Oh, I just grabbed that. I was saying, I was building up the yellow a bit, and I realized that I forgot the yellow on here. Make it look a little bit more bright to match the rest. Alright, and then I added just little white spots to give it a little bit of shiny look, like it's catching the light. The eyes are fine. I'm happy with how they look. They probably could use a couple more speckles of light on them, but I don't know, I might add that later. This stuff here is still drying. When this dries, I will also add a bit more highlights to make it look a little bit wetter. This mess up here, that's just the undercoat of the embers. I'm going to then go over it in black and hide a lot of the color but have it peeking through, so hopefully it looks more like embers. To be completely honest, I'm probably the most proud of the can so far. It kind of looks like how, well, this is going to be a bit of a stretch, but there's this artist, Kev Walker, who I grew up loving his work. He did a lot of stuff for Magic the Gathering. So it was Kev Walker and Paolo Parente, and they have this really chunky, high contrast style on the old Magic cards. As I collected more of Kev Walker's the newer cards, not his older work, they became a lot darker and color-wise a lot darker and not as chunky, but Paolo Parente has this very, you can see the distinct colors, but they all blend together, but not super blended. What I'm trying to say is that I was trying to mimic their style a bit in the way that I was transitioning with the colors here, and I actually really like how it turned out. I'm pretty happy with that can, considering I was a little bit afraid of working on that. The joint, I just added a bit of, it's not pure white, it's white with a little bit of blue added, and it matches the eye color a bit. So now the only thing left to do is darken the skeleton recesses a bit, which again I'm a little apprehensive to do because I don't really know how to do it. I think, like I said, I'm gonna mix up maybe a dark brown, add a little smidge of black, and probably just blend it in, dry brush it in to give it a softer look. And I'll be doing that tomorrow. I'll be doing the skeleton and the joint, finishing that up and adding basically all the darker stuff. In here I need to darken the mouth of the the can. And then once that's finished, the day after tomorrow will be the background day. And I will have to figure out what to do for the background. And then once the background is done, we can start some new projects. I know this is dragging on quite a bit. I didn't know it was going to take this long. Like I said, this is probably only my 7th or 8th oil painting. And I can really understand why people like oil painting. It has this really nice way of blending, especially on canvas. The texture of the canvas makes blending two colors very easy because, for example, on a smooth piece of paper, when you have two different colors, yellow to green, to blend those two colors, you have to work at it to make it a smooth transition, because the smooth surface really doesn't allow for much of a room for error. You kind of have to be very careful. Whereas on canvas, since the canvas has these little raised bumps because of the woven pattern, it catches, depending on the pressure of the brush, it catches the little bits of paint on these tiny little specks. So when you go up close and you look at the painting, you'll notice that, let's zoom in here. You can notice what I'm talking about. Here in the teeth, you'll see that it's not really, I didn't do too much to blend it. It's really the canvas and the pressure of the brush, because the paint is catching on these little bumps, essentially. And that's what's giving it that nice gradient look. On a smooth surface, you would have to achieve that by blending and like doing a little bit more work. But on a canvas, it's just the pressure and I guess the dryness or the wetness of the brush. And so oil painting it sounds like it's going to be hard, and it sounds very challenging because you have to use thinners and linseed oil and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, it's still just paint. And if you want to experiment with oil paints, I highly recommend it. I would just get maybe like a little starter kit. And I think they have water-soluble oil paints now if you don't want to get too serious too fast. And get yourself a couple of the little canvases. Just like make sure they're not too smooth. If you can get actual raw canvas and gesso it yourself, just so you can really experiment with the texture of the canvas, I think that's, therein lies the real pleasure of oil painting, is the blending of the colors and the way that you let the paint do its own thing. There's a lot of detail in the eyes and stuff here where I tried to make it look like this eye is popping out or whatever, and I had quite a large brush. But thanks to the way that oil paint sits on canvas and the way that its viscosity interacts with the texture of the canvas, it'll lay itself out in strands, or it's almost, the texture of the paint also gives the painting additional depth. Something that you wouldn't get, say, with like watercolors. I love watercolors, but again, with watercolor you have to be quite precise when putting in detail, because if you allow all the paint to blend together while it's all still wet, then it can just become a big pile of mush. You either have to be very careful and not allow things to touch, or you have to do one color at a time, let it dry, next color, let it dry, whatever. With oil paint, there's none of that danger of paint running together unless you really start mixing it around in there. So I guess what I'm trying to say is I've had a great time. I'm just really trying to figure out mentally how to finish it up so that it'll look complete and it'll stand alone on its own two legs as a piece. Thank you for joining me today, day 34 of making art in my garage. I'll see you tomorrow. How interesting. I'm learning so much.